Hey, listen, and welcome to A Link to the Filmcast. I'm your host, without a symbiote, David Reese, and the show where we adventure across the realms of Hyrule and the silver screen. And today we're going to be looking at the movie Venom, as part of our series leading up to the Legend of Zelda movie, looking at films from the director and producers past. We are starting our series on the producer Avi Arad, who is attached to the live-action Zelda movie. We are going to be looking at the film Venom. But before we get into that, we are going to take a look at a random wiki page and see what we find. Today's article is about The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening Certain Victory Strategy Guide, released by Futabasha for Link's Awakening. This is a 112-page book and contains a complete walkthrough of Link's Awakening, listing of enemies, boss, and collectibles, and a map of all the locations and dungeons in the game. I never had any Zelda strategy guides. I remember fondly, as a kid, I had the Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green strategy guide. I think I got it from Blockbuster back in the day when I was young. I do think strategy guides are pretty cool and kind of a dying art form. I don't know. Yeah, I'd say so. Link's Awakening having a strategy guide, that would make sense. There's a lot of stuff, especially in the older games, where the strategy guide might even just fill in blanks of, I didn't even know you could do that in this game. Because games were so new, and the Legend of Zelda franchise, this is the first game on a Game Boy. This is the first mobile game for the Zelda franchise. So what kind of things Nintendo could do differently? I do have a PDF. There's a guy out there that does hand-drawn game guides, and he did a hand-drawn version of the original The Legend of Zelda game for the NES. He has a hand-drawn guide that if you donate some money, you can get a PDF of it, and I have a copy of it, and it's a great guide. I'd recommend checking them out. Maybe I'll put that in the show notes. But strategy guides are so cool. I also remember Wind Waker for the GameCube that came with, it wasn't the strategy guide, it was a little booklet from Nintendo, basically how to play the game, which they really don't do anymore. The case is just empty and contains the cartridge if you buy physical. And now it seems with the new Switch 2, the physical cartridges aren't even the game anymore, just a key to allow you to download the game. But physical media, they're nice collectibles. I think I also have a big Skyrim collector's strategy guide. And it's a big book. It's a big tome, over 1,000 pages, just heavy. I also use it as a big weight around the house if I need to flatten out a poster or something. That's a great resource I have. So, strategy guides. The Pokemons are cool. The Pokemon strategy guides typically have a Pokédex. I remember that from the Fire Red, Leaf Green one. Seeing every level, what moves Pokemon can learn, what levels they evolve, different special abilities. As a kid, that was amazing to me. I wonder if there's any third-party, unofficial Tears of the Kingdom strategy guides. I guess nowadays everything's done online. You would have to go to like IGN, Zelda Dungeon, go to different websites and just find their walkthroughs there. GameFAQs, I remember. I think GameFAQs is still around. But that's going to be our Zelda article for today. Or our wiki article. Today's main story, I kind of want to talk about the themes for anti-heroes. I kind of want to talk about anti-heroes along coinciding with Venom here. Trying different formats with the show. seen different things that people like, don't like. I should probably stop talking like behind the scenes about the show and just do it, which I'm going to be doing now. So I guess I didn't spend too much time on it. I do like going through the story. I do like going through the plot of the movie. I guess what I've done in the past is a beat for beat almost, or scene for scene, and then kind of wrap it up quick. So I'm going to try to spread it out, and I don't know. You tell me, what do you enjoy hearing? Do you want to hear the beat for beat stuff? Do you want to go through the movie scene for scene when we're talking about the plot? You let me know. So this set of movies I mentioned earlier, same producer that is gonna be doing the Zelda movie along with Shigeru Miyamoto and Nintendo, with director Wes Ball for the Legend of Zelda movie. Avi Arad, if you do a quick Google search on him, you'll see that he was the founder of Marvel Studios. So he did the Marvel movie. He was like the main guy for the Marvel movies before the Disney acquisition. And now he's been doing the Sony Marvel adaptations like Venom, Mobius, Madam Web, Craven. He's kind of been a producer attached to those films. And like I said, or if you just read the episode title, today we're talking about Venom. For some reason, this is one of those movies I did see in theaters during college. As a college kid, I didn't see too many movies in theaters, but for some reason, I do remember seeing this one. I don't know if I was home and I saw it with my dad, or if I had friends and we all decided to go out and see it. It was the money factor that really, when you're in college, seeing a movie is kind of a luxury when you have a very college student income. But I saw it in theaters. Tom Hardy, our main guy, I like him as an actor. He's always fun. In the movies I've seen him in Mad Max. He was also Bane in the Nolan Batman movie. Or in the movies he made, but he was only in one. He's kind of almost the same guy, but not really the same character, so he's got some range. There's other movies he's done that I haven't seen, like Black Hawk Down. And coincidentally, he just had a movie come out this last weekend on Netflix called Havoc. It looks like another action film that I'm a little intrigued to see myself. But I like him in this movie because he has also got a sense of humor about him. He's not just serious action star. He's actually got some personality to him, even if that personality is just downtrodden and miserable and trying to cope with a stressful situation, which really is why these anti-hero films are kind of popular. And I'm going to jump into this, but what do I mean when I say anti-hero? It's not the literal opposite of a hero with the prefix of anti. The opposite of a hero you would think would be a villain. But it's opposite in the sense of what they do isn't motivated by their traditional heroic values, but they're more selfish. They do it, their actions based off of their own personal motive. This leads to interesting storytelling. Decisions aren't always black and white. It's not always just flip a coin, good and bad. It creates a gray area, and that's really reflective of how life actually works. Life is complicated. There's a lot of moving parts, lots of things to consider in life. And when you see that reflected on the screen with a character deciding between different things and having to choose their own way, I think more people can relate to that more than they can relate to the traditional, like, Superman hero archetype. Because Superman is so positively good. The average Joe watching Superman, it's hard for them to see themselves in Clark Kent. You see Superman and you're like, look at that guy. He's just so good. That no way that could be me. But you take a character like Eddie Brock, a guy that gets fired from a job for doing what he believes is right, which so many people can relate to, and then getting dumped by a fiance, which is another thing people can relate to on a level that's so personal that when they see that on the screen, they see themselves a little in the movie, even though it's not explicitly doing that. It's a subconscious thing. People can relate to it a little more. You see Eddie Brock, you see Tom Hardy, our main dude, doing everyday things that we all do. We see him going to a bar, having a drink. We see him going to convenience stores, walking down the street. You know, he's going through a depressioning spiral, and one of his friends at the convenience store, Miss Chang, she doesn't try to be optimistic like it's going to be better. She's rooted in reality. She's got the quote, "Life hurts, Eddie. It just does," which was a quote I wrote down watching this movie because it just seems so bleak and serious for setting the tone of these movies. And this is a different tonal shift from like the Zelda games that I try to reference and compare media to. That's what I try to keep this podcast unique in that sense. Because our hero Link, he's not an anti-hero. He's a hero. He's our Clark Kent of Hyrule. He's not an Eddie Brock. Link always does the right decisions. If he does a bad decision, it punishes him. Like if he attacks the chicken. Or not the chicken. Don't come after me with your pitchforks. The cuckoo. But Link, he does all the side quests. He helps people out and doesn't expect anything in return. And you can tell he wants to save Hyrule or save the world just for the sake of saving it and being good. They tried going edgy with the Twilight Princess, Link. And he was more of a catalyst while they were telling a story, which was a cool approach. His acts and motivations in Twilight Princess weren't really for the general good. It was more for helping the kids from Ordon, helping the villages, Castletown, helping Midna. They kind of went that direction with it in Twilight Princess. That kind of changed it, I feel. Made it more personal, having that connection to the characters rather than Ocarina of Time just being told by the princess, "Oh no, this is wrong. He's a bad man. Go talk to the Gorons and see if they need help." Because Link kind of grows a connection with them, but not to the extent the Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess does. I'm not saying Eddie's a bad guy. He's still a good guy. He's a character. He helps out the homeless lady outside of the convenience store, Maria. He even tries to break her out when he's doing the sketchy deal with the scientists from the Life Foundation when he comes across Maria, who has Venom in her apparently. He tries to free her, and that's how he gets infused with Venom. Where if you know the source material, or if you've seen Spider-Man 3 from the 2000s, the Sam Raimi movies, you'll know they gave Venom a slightly different origin story for this movie because they probably didn't have the rights to use Spider-Man. Because Venom's origin story is tied to Peter Parker. And at this time, when they're doing this movie, they're working on the Avengers Infinity War, getting ready for Endgame. those movies. So they don't want to mess up their cinematic universe by throwing Spider-Man into this side project, even though it's still Marvel. If you're curious on the Venom original story, check out Spider-Man 3, but essentially he still comes from space. He infuses with Spider-Man first, and then Spider-Man is so positive and good, Venom doesn't really, and not really compatible with Venom, he doesn't really stick to Peter Parker long. And it's actually at a point where a bell's ringing and creating that frequency that he doesn't like, where he is separated from Spider-Man, and that's where he finds Eddie, who's down on his luck because he's another photographer for the Daily Bugle. But this is in San Francisco. This isn't in New York. Totally opposite coast of the country. Different origin story. Let's just go with it. I'm just saying Eddie Brock is different than like our traditional heroes like Peter Parker. There's more relatable actions they do. And this isn't anything new. Other shows, media have done it, and it's been doing it more often lately. In the last 10 years, I've noticed. You could go back to Shrek. Is Shrek an anti-hero? He's real popular. The only reason he's doing the mission, or he embarks on the mission to get the princess, is to get his swamp back. He's got selfish needs. Deadpool's a classic anti-hero, people like to point out, for Marvel. He's not doing things for the good. He does things for himself and for Vanessa. And that's why he doesn't team up with the X-Men or the Avengers. And I hope they keep it that way. I have no idea what direction they want to take the Deadpool franchise to next, but I hope they don't sully the character. Walter White, if you've seen the show Breaking Bad, he has good intentions. He wants to set his family up, but he does it through illegal means because that's the easy way to do it with the time he has left. That's just to name a few. But overall, the movie's a fun flick. I'm glad they made 3 of them. I saw the second one, Let There Be Carnage, and I thought that was great. And I did not see the third. So I'm excited to see the third one in 2 weeks or in a couple of weeks as part of this mini series as well. So we got a hero movie set in our actual reality. What's our spark? What do we get with? How do we start a movie? There's several ways. If it's an established character sometimes, or even if it's not an established character, they'll often start with an action sequence and then do a time skip back, which is so played out. I'm glad they didn't do that for this. Our spark to put the movie into action is a spaceship crashing into Earth with alien life on it. So we can already tell there's going to be a sci-fi and fantasy element right away. We know it's a Marvel movie. Marvel likes to play with sci-fi, which is fine. Getting a spaceship of scientists and alien specimens crashing into the Earth. It's setting the table. And the other part of setting the table on the other end is meeting our main dude, Eddie Brock. We get kind of a sloppy newsreel of the Brock Report. We get to see his journalism skills. We get to see Eddie doing some investigative journalism out in the field, and he's got his notepad visible and he's reading directly from it, like all good journalists do out in the field, I guess. No, I thought that was a little odd. That kind of took me out of it. I was like, I don't think once when I've seen a news story, a news report, I see the journalist reading directly from the notepad. But I think that's how they're deciding to showcase Eddie Brock's character. He's not polished. He's more regular. He needs resources like a notepad, and he's more authentic. He's not phony reading from a script, but he's got this mango notepad where he takes down his notes, and that's how he's delivering his report. We get to see the big bad pretty early in the movie, and he's not even directly bad at this point. Well, he is bad at this point. Eddie is told he has to meet with Carlton. Eddie is told he's got an interview with Carlton Drake, and that he has to be on his best behavior and be cool as a favor to his his editor from the paper. And obviously he takes this chance to try to expose the Life Corporation as the bad company that it is. He's got intel from his ex-fiance. He knows that there's homeless people going missing in the city. He knows there's legal cover-ups with the company. He knows they're not a pinnacle of virtue, and goes at it in a pretty dumb way, I feel. Asking the CEO point blank about different lawsuits and allegations that aren't necessarily public yet. Obviously, a person could have been more sleuthy about it, but that's just Eddie Brock's character. He's straight to the point, wanting to cut the rubbish and go straight to what he's trying to get at. And we get a time skip in the beginning. It's just a 6-month one. Not super bad. Eddie is just down on his luck. And we get the scenes that make him relatable to us as a character. We get to see him drinking, shopping at a store, walking down the street. The way he interacts with his ex-fiance, the way he talks to the doctor that's stalking him to get into the lab, that's another good way to kind of establish who this Eddie Brock is. And I don't know if at the time they knew they were going to make this into a trilogy, but when you have a trilogy that hangs on a leading man like Eddie Brock, you kind of want to know about him. You kind of want to be able to relate, like him, get on his side. Or else it wouldn't be fun. If you saw a movie from the point of view of just some standby or who's neutral or even the opposite, or if the main character is someone you don't even know what their deal is, would you really like that? The one I can think off of the top of my head, not to throw shade, but the Magical Beast movies, the Harry Potter universe spinoffs with Newt Scamander, I think his name was. First movie was fine, but that second movie, I really didn't resonate with the character. Stuff was just happening and he was there, and it just made me ask myself, what's going on here? It kind of took me out of the experience. When you can relate to the main character, and that works with games too, when you can relate to the main character as well, having the character be a forest boy around your age, 7, or whatever Ocarina of Time link is, having that character around your age helps connect to the story so much more. We talked about the lab a little with Maria coming out. This guy, his whole idea is with these alien symbiotes, we'll be able to conquer space. We'll be able to fuse and do well, I guess. But they have to, sacrifice these volunteers' lives. They're not truly volunteers, to see if they can get these alien species to cooperate and be compatible with us. And somehow he found one of them was compatible with him, Riot. So we really have kind of two big bads in this. We got Carlton Drake and we got Riot, which is kind of my beef with this movie that uses the classic Marvel villain archetype where the villain has the same powers and abilities as the main hero and has to find a way to overcome it. Iron Man did that for 2 of the 3 movies. It's a Marvel trope. They went with it. That's probably my biggest ding on this movie. And I know it's hard. It's hard to write a good, compelling bad guy, especially in a movie with an anti-hero, because they can't just be evil for the sake of being evil. They have to be evil for having some connection to the main character. And this time, I like how Venom described it to Eddie. Well, you see, on my planet, I am like a loser. So is that I decide to stay with Earth now. I kind of like the place. Venom wants to stay on Earth, and he knows Riot's gonna go back and bring in other aliens to dominate. And that's a noble cause. Not too much gray area there. I know we've been talking about gray area this whole time, and really it's just, I guess Venom doesn't really care about other people. He just doesn't want the other symbiotes coming to the planet. I guess that's his motivation. He doesn't want to be a loser again. Because here in San Francisco, he's got skill. We first get Venom. He's taking a while to adjust to Eddie's new body. Or not his new body, but he's taking a while to adjust to Eddie's body. And we get the scene at the restaurant. And I think this is probably my favorite scene. There's several reports from different crew members that the lobster tank was Tom Hardy's idea for the scene. They were at the restaurant scene and Tom saw the lobster tank. He had the idea. He ran it by the director, and the director said, do it. And I don't know if everyone in the scene was clued in to him hopping into the tank and going after the lobster. But the way it turned out in the movie, I think there's some authentic reactions in the restaurant, and I think that came out so well. So in character too for Eddie Brock in Venom as he's going through these sweats in the body changing. And I'm a sucker for improv comedy. I love. So seeing stuff like this in a big movie, I'm glad they give the actors a little freedom, some creative freedom to build on the character and do what they want. And then they don't necessarily have to keep it in. During Final Cut, they can cut scenes and stuff out, and that can just become a bonus feature down the road at some point. But the fact they kept it in the movie, I love. We haven't talked about Anne yet. I refer to her as the ex-fiance. There's her whole deal where she used to work for the Life Foundation or Life Corporation. And that's how Eddie was able to get some of the inside knowledge. And by him flabbering his mouth, they were able to trace it back to her and fire her. Not real smart. Kind of feel bad for Annie? Oh, I forget how they said it in the movie. But I like the way the movie ends with her, where Brock is talking to her and she doesn't know that Venom is still alive. We get one of Stan Lee's last cameos at this point, at the very end of the movie. And you think it's the end, and I looked at the screen, or I looked at the little play bar, and it still showed there was 20 minutes left, We get some other scenes like the Miss Chang store where Venom wants to eat people but can't just eat anyone, but Eddie's like, only bad people, so that's kind of funny. We get the Venom Eminem song. There's a mid-credit scene with Woody Harrelson setting up the sequel. And then we get a post-credit scene kind of teasing the Into the Spiderverse movies, Miles meeting Peter Parker before the Into the Spider-Verse movie came out. Kind of a little sneak peek. I know critically this movie wasn't well received. 31% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.6% on IMDb. But the thing that keeps me happy is that the popcorn meter, or the audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes, is a solid 80%. And that's where I live. I like movies that critics just bash, but they're still awesome and amazing movies. They're fun to watch. They're great popcorn movies. And the critic complaints are always, well, plot holes, and they're dissecting the movie and tearing it apart. But when they're making the movie and putting it together, do you not think they realize some of the plot holes and stuff? They have to analyze, is the general public, when they watch this movie and they go for the ride that we put them on, is that going to take them out of it? It could, because you're putting this out to the public and everyone's minds are different. The things people look for in movies are different. That's why it's hard to put numbers to the quality of a movie when each person has their own taste, preferences, comes from their own backgrounds. It's very hard. I think this episode went well. I think we did well. Like, trying to throw in some Venom jokes in here. Like Carlton Drake's Rockets. This show is gonna go sky high. And maybe just turn into a ball of flames and plummet back to the earth. Who knows what the future holds. I think this was a great film to kind of look at, and I can't wait to build on it. Where's our next movie? Venom, Let There Be Carnage. If you have questions you'd like to hear answered on the podcast, send them to ZeldaFilmcast@gmail.com or use the send a message link in the show description. The questions can be about Zelda, movies, life, or whatever you want. Check me out on X at ZeldaFilmcast. Still working on setting up a different social account, maybe Blue Sky. Thanks for listening, and as always, may the Triforce be with you.